Kia ora, hello, I'm Philip Duncan, and thanks for joining us for our weekend weather update and the outlook for the start of next week, with an Antarctic blast on the way for the southern part of New Zealand and rain and wind for many other parts. Let's take a look and see what is happening with the animated wind map as we end the working week. Here is the big high pressure zone, and it is reaching up to the subtropics or the tropical areas and dragging down this subtropical airflow across most of the North Island and a little bit of the South Island. Now that moves further up and across New Zealand over the next 24 hours or so, and then low pressure is forming out here. You can already see it, and that's going to drive in a windy nor'wester across the country as we go into the weekend, followed by that colder change coming through on Monday. So let's try and make sense of it. This is a large system with a few moving parts, so it might be a little bit confusing, but we'll try and break it down for you as simply as we can. This is overnight tonight, so 1 o'clock in the morning. This is all low pressure from just south of South Australia all the way out here into the Tasman Sea. High pressure on this side. That's why we've got this subtropical airflow coming down, and these are the rain clouds. So let me animate the next 48 hours. You'll see that rain moving in over the weekend, strong winds, and then we end here in the early hours of Monday morning, and that's when you can see this polar portion of the weather coming into the lower part of the South Island, and that's where we do expect some snow to low levels. Low levels being maybe only 100 metres, and it might go down to sea level. It's not locked in 100% because snow to sea level in New Zealand is always a bit 50-50 because our air temperatures and sea temperatures around us are actually fairly mild and not overly cold. It's not like we're well inland and so that cold air can really sink. So the sea temperatures around us makes snow always a little bit borderline, but we will keep you up to date over the weekend. We might even do a special update here at Weather Watch TV, but we'll just see. We don't want to make a big deal out of it if it is just a very brief burst of cold air. So we're just in that sort of figuring out phase. Here is the rainfall though, and a fair bit of rain coming for parts of the North Island. There'll be an isolated thunderstorm or two, or maybe a little more widespread depending on just exactly what happens out at sea as that nor'wester cranks up. But there is some rain coming through here with potentially getting up to 100 millimetres or more here and there. And Canterbury even gets a bit of rain, mostly in the northern half, which is where you probably need it. Not huge amounts, but still anywhere between 25 and 40 on the way, which would be great if you got that much. But these areas here in green and yellow, 5 to 10. So not everyone's going to get rain to the level that they want. So let's take a closer look at the weekend. Here is that north to northwesterly wind. It picks up as the day goes on, potentially getting some gales coming down around the upper North Island and then building up a bit over here in the east as it comes over the ranges. It is dry though in the east, dry for much of the South Island, but this rain will push down into Nelson and Marlborough as we go through the afternoon or evening, and a little bit of wet weather just stuck around the lower part of the island there, but not really raining much around Southland. Into Sunday, look at this giant system. So the high pressure zone is up here. That is the reason why we're still seeing these mild and very windy nor'westers, potentially severe gales coming through. We say potentially because it's still a couple of days out. These isobars very close together. That's a sign of winds getting up to that level, but it needs to just sort of be perfectly locked in, and that will take another day or so. But keep an eye on those Met Service warnings and watches. Now look at this on Sunday night. Here comes that wintry southerly stretching all the way over from Tasmania to east of New Zealand out here to the Antipodes Islands. So this is going to be a big cold change, and it will spread up the country. This is how it looks lunchtime Monday. Gosh, we don't see a map like this very often, but I thought this is kind of cool because right here, that is the South Pole. And if you look closely, you'll notice these winds are all lining up. They come off the ice shelf here and they spread up to New Zealand. Now, most of it is just off to the southeast, but a little portion of it will brush the southern part of New Zealand, and that's the reason why the temperatures are going to drop as we go into the afternoon. The areas with blue are below zero, and that is at lunchtime. So this is a same kind of time frame. It's still lunchtime on Monday, but showing the isobars and the low pressure zone. So we're down into the 940s in this area with the air pressure. 1025 over here. So that's quite a lot of, that's a big gradient. That's the reason why you're seeing so much in the way of wind. So severe gales coming out of the Southern Ocean and straight on in to Southland, Otago, and maybe into parts of Fiordland and Canterbury. The precise wind does matter. If it's a south to southeasterly, it comes into Canterbury, south to southwesterly, Canterbury doesn't get much from it. So we'll keep an eye on that. And then, of course, it moves up into the North Island. Squally, heavy showers around Auckland with those winds potentially gale force there as well. So what a way to kick off the week. Here's a closer look of that same map. So we'll just be very quick here, but just shows you how that cold change really does push in to the lower portion of the South Island, and that southwesterly lean brings in the showers here to the north. All right, into Tuesday. Now, this is a short-lived system by the looks of the modelling. We've been seeing it like this for the last 4 or 5 days. What you're seeing is, by the time we get to noon Tuesday, this high pressure zone is moving along like a bulldozer, and it just nudges that airflow from a southerly that you've got here into a southwesterly. And if you track the origins of these isobars, you'll notice they're coming out of Australia as quickly as that. So Antarctica one day, Australia the next, one continent to another. Not many parts of the world get a change like that. So we're going to see that colder airflow right across the country on Tuesday. Might be a few snow flurries around the desert road here as well as a result of that colder airflow. But as we go through the day, the airflow starts to warm up around New Zealand. And our final map for Wednesday shows what I think looks like a start to spring weather. We talked about this yesterday. High pressure to the north, subtropical winds returning to the lower South Island, and then this wall of westerlies from way out under the Indian Ocean, over the Indian Ocean. Gosh, that would be something if it was coming under it. And here it is, straight through, over Tasmania, through Bass Strait, and it's coming towards New Zealand later next week, which means, we might be just feeling more of a spring-like weather pattern kicking in. And we, as we said yesterday, high risk, we believe, going into the spring of snowstorms a little bit like the one we're seeing on Monday, because the weather in the Southern Ocean is so volatile at the moment, more so than usual, I think, this year. And so that just gives us that added risk of a polar blast. Does the polar blast come up and hit Australia? Does it come up and get New Zealand, or does it go out to sea? That's always the million-dollar question. But going into spring of this year, I think we'll see a combination of these big highs, windy westerlies, but still a good chance of getting a snowy or frosty burst of weather. That is all from me for this week. Have a great weekend. We'll see you again on Monday. And like I say, we might just do a special update over the weekend. We'll keep an eye on things. But in the meantime, just check the news feed at ruralweather.co.nz, at Weather Watch, or from the Weather Watch app. We'll see you later on.